Greetings, acolytes. Time for less of a hot topic, more of a speculation. Speculation on what the galaxy would look like now and could look like in the future. A galaxy where the heresy didn't happen, or just went differently. A galaxy where the Emperor's dream was made reality. Of course, we would first have to know what that is, and we'll get to that soon. In today's video, we will be exploring what the Emperor's vision for the galaxy and humanity was, what could have been done differently to bring it about, and how it could be brought to fruition starting now in the hellscape of the 42nd millennium. The Emperor wanted a lot of things, so let's get some of the obvious things settled first. The Emperor wanted a galaxy devoid of either all intelligent Xenos life, or to have all of that intelligent Xenos life serving under humanity. And obviously he wanted humanity to be united under his banner. No humans were to be left beyond his iron grip. This was as much for the survival of humanity as it was for the Emperor's own control issues, something that is kind of apparent as you see his visions for the galaxy and his actions during the Horus Heresy books. The Emperor also wanted to conceal the truth about the warp and chaos, potentially indefinitely, as he showed no signs of ever opening that information up to those who needed it, especially his sons. While I can't accept not sharing the information with all of humanity, those that are in charge in dealing with the warp should be aware of what is going on as much as possible. If the theories that the Emperor wanted to starve the Chaos Gods of power this way are true, then he clearly had no understanding of the nature of the Chaos Gods and warp entities in general, which is awful and contradictory writing for the greatest psyker in human history. But that's besides the point. He wanted to not have to deal with chaos in the warp as much anymore to minimize the risk. Some evidence of this, aside from the Council of Nicaea, which was astoundingly stupid, was the Emperor's Webway project, to remove humanity's dependence on navigators in traditional warp FTL. It would remove almost all of humanity's need for it, and was honestly quite a good idea, even if its execution wasn't the best. I honestly think that he should have told his sons at least what was going on, but again, not the point right now. Removing humanity's dependency on the warp would have been very much a worthwhile endeavor if it had succeeded. Someone did nothing wrong and fucked it all up. Again, not the point though. And again, the last big thing that I think the Emperor wanted was human ascension. Now what could that be? I'm stealing Stellaris here. Humanity is described several times as a species that is slowly gaining more and more psychers as time goes on, so my thought is that eventually all humans, with the Emperor's supervision, would become a race of psychers. Maybe not on par with him, but certainly powerful, much like the Eldar. Another potential ascension goes with another theme that you've seen the Emperor use. The Emperor is a transhumanist through and through, and there's no denying that. His work with genetic manipulation to create the Primarchs, Custodes, and Astartes show that. He truly loved the Custodes as his creations, but the Astartes were a mass-produced stopgap measure to conquer the galaxy. If the Emperor had enough time and resources, like say from a galaxy completely under his control, he might have set about slowly altering every human in the galaxy until they were at least on par with Custodes. This is all speculation on what he wanted based on his actions though. It's entirely possible that I am entirely wrong, but there's very little information to judge either way from my understanding. So first let's look at where the Emperor went wrong, and how he could have made his goal a reality. I am going to be ignoring any supposed prophecies about the heresy. Fate in 40k has been repeatedly shown to be unreliable, so why should I listen to it in the video where I control the fate of this hypothetical discussion? So how should the Emperor have done anything different? First, the Council of Nicaea. Throw that shit out the window. He's the Emperor of motherfucking mankind, and everyone else can get bent. Up next, the dangers of the warp. He should at least tell those who should know about it. Astropaths, navigators, the Primarchs and librarians, and generally high-ranking officials. These are all people who should know the dangers of the warp, as their misunderstanding led to many of the current issues in 40k. If librarians and chaplains knew what to look for in their recruits, maybe Erebus and Typhus wouldn't have gotten as far as they did for corrupting their legion, as well as potentially preventing Fulgrim from picking up the penis sword, or at least have gotten it away from him. Thirdly, the Emperor should have been a better father. Several of his sons, namely Lorgar, Materian, Perturabo, and Angron, should have been handled very differently. I can't say much about Conrad, there's no unmonstering him, but he was at the very least effective at what he did. Keeping him around as a tool probably would have worked fine, since that's how Kurz saw himself anyways. Angron is a really easy fix. If the Emperor just helped him instead of kidnapping him, it would have immediately won his respect. While Angron would eventually die from the butcher's nails, this is canon by the way, he would have at least stayed loyal to the Emperor. Mortarion is another similar thing. If you waited for Mortarion to fail in killing his father, saved him, and helped him come up with a plan instead of just kill-stealing like he was in a rush to get this over with, He could have probably won his loyalty just given a few months, and would have most likely lessened his hatred for Psychers if the Emperor had actually helped him with his own psychic gifts. Lorgar is where it gets tricky, since he was raised to be religious. While I struggle to find a way to outright remove his faith, I think there's better ways of handling it than burning down his home city and ordering his brothers to do it while psychically forcing him and his legion to kneel. With enough one-on-one time, I do think the Emperor could have gotten through to him and shown that he wasn't actually a god. Debatable in the modern day, but we're ignoring that. Perturabo is very much an easy fix. He didn't want to be a siege master, or to do all these awful things involving war. He just wanted to invent and better the lives of the people under him. Putting him in charge of planetary development, using his sons as defensive garrison troops rather than offensive siege masters, and other non-combat roles would have made him a lot happier. If not all of them, then at least give him the time and resources to build up the worlds his legion conquers, like Gilliman did from time to time. Perturabo could have made life pleasant for the average Imperial citizen if he had the chance, but he was put into a combat position and he complied out of spite, so much so that he ended up rebelling. Quite sad and tragic, since all he wanted to do was to make people happy. And the last thing he should do to make sure the heresy didn't happen and things actually went as he wanted would be to tell his sons where the hell he went after he named Horus Warmaster. Many of the Primarchs felt abandoned when he went back to Terra without telling them what he's doing. And while I think that is a bit of a shit reason to go traitor, I think the Emperor should have at least told them what he was doing and why. If anyone should know, it's the 19 sons that directly control his empire and armies. Those are my thoughts of what the Emperor should have done differently then. What about now? Is the dream too far gone? Is humanity doomed to languish in the dark until their spark fades away like it never existed? Honestly, probably, considering the Tyranids and Necrons, but let's ignore that for now. In theory, could the Emperor's dream be realized in the modern day? There's plenty of ways to do that, but first we must be less intolerant, which is anathema to both the average Warhammer fan and the average Imperial citizen, especially the Ecclesiarchy. First, close most of the war fronts. Making allies with the Votann, some Necron dynasties, Eldar craft worlds, can't do much about the Harlequins or Drukhari, and the Tau would be crucial. Tyranids and Chaos are threats to everyone, and Orcs are also a galactic pest. These enemies usually get anyone to unite against them, and making pacts for mutual defense, trade, and non-aggression with them would be crucial for relieving some pressure on the galactic front. The second step is to unite and fight off any galactic threats. Necron tacticals the Eye of Terra, the proper training of Psychers across the galaxy by the Eldar, potentially even gifting them with the runes to make sure that warp breaches don't happen. Domestic improvements for the Imperium are next, removing the limits of invention on most things, but still limiting AI. We don't want a Men of Iron repeat. Due process and proper education, living standards, healthcare, and universal income for all its citizens. Will this collapse several worlds? Yes. Are their lives worth it in the long run? Absolutely. A separation of church and state is also required. While I'm not opposed to ecclesiarchy existing, so long as they become more tolerant, they shouldn't have a place within the Imperium's government. By extension, restrictions would need to be placed on the Sisters of Battle. Space Marine chapters will remain largely unchanged until galactic peace has been established, but I do have a plan for them. Once peace has been made and the Imperium has the resources to spare, it should look into ways to make women into Space Marines as well, so that everyone can be made into one physically, so that they can reproduce and make genetically enhanced humans the standard. Or generally just make better humans through genetic alteration and ignore the Space Marine thing. Altering people's diets so their kids come out with enhanced genetic traits, for example, is one such option. Keep adding and tweaking this on a small scale until you have a working model, then mass produce it and apply it to the galaxy. Production efficiency and quality of life would again skyrocket for humanity, and this alongside a peaceful and affordable Imperium would make it nearly a utopia. While I don't think it's perfect, and by no means would it be anytime soon, I do believe it's possible for the Emperor's dream to become largely a reality, with some obvious changes. But when things in the galaxy have changed this much already, I'm sure the Emperor would take whatever he can get at this point. Overall, I think the Emperor's dream for the galaxy and humanity was generally a positive and prosperous one, even if his methods did kinda suck. However, with a few alliances and concessions, as well as a few trillion more casualties, it's possible to make the Emperor's dream of a prosperous humanity a possibility in the far future of the Milky Way. If you have any other ideas of what the Emperor wanted, things he could have done differently, or ways to make it a reality in the modern day, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I really appreciate your feedback. While you're down there, if you could leave a like and subscribe, it would mean the world to me, as your support gives me the motivation to keep making content for you all. Links to my Twitch, Discord server, TikTok, and Twitter account are also down there as well. So check those out to see more of my content and to keep up to date with all my latest insane ideas. I've started working on some homebrew D&D settings alongside a new TTRPG I've named Andromeda that I'll be making videos on and working on during stream in the coming weeks. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and take care out there.